everyone, I am Constance. Thank you for joining me in the next episode of my English class. In this lesson, we're going to be doing story time, all right? You remember our George and Venus story, and you can always check out episode 13 to see where we have left off. Now, we're going to be doing episode 40. So let's get started. All right. Oh, the wind is here. Sunday morning had come. It had been a very peaceful day and the weather outside was fantastic. George Greenback rolled off the floors of his house, got up, and began stretching his limbs. He was feeling very good about his future and what he was trying to do to help the young men in his village. It was now 9 o'clock, and since Venus hadn't called him the previous day, he had all intentions of calling her as soon as he had a cup of tea down his stomach. The cup of tea now in his hand, his phone began ringing. Certainly, George thought the caller to be Venus, his girlfriend, but upon putting the receiver to his ear, he quickly learned that the caller was no other but Mr. Nana, the shopkeeper from his village. "Good morning, my son," the shopkeeper said, resting his cup of tea onto the mini kitchen island in front of him. George excitingly exclaimed, "Good morning, Mr. Nana." He wasn't expecting to hear from the shopkeeper this early or this soon. However, George was quite elated to hear from him anyways. "What's the good news, Mr. Nana?" George asked with excitement in his voice. "I have the men here, all 6 of them ready to come and work for you," responded the shopkeeper. "Wow! This is quicker than I had anticipated," George exclaimed. But he hadn't collected any additional money from Richard Thomas to fund these workers' transportation. Nonetheless, these workers coming to him were very important. Therefore, George asked, "Do you know if they all have their bus fares to Bonju?" Their response was unanimous. Hence, their trip had to be delayed. However, it wouldn't be delayed for too long. "Mr. Nana, I'll send you money by telegram. It will reach to you by Tuesday. So I'll expect to see them here by Wednesday night," George informed the shopkeeper. "I'll make sure of it, my son, I'll make sure of it," shouted the shopkeeper into the phone with much enthusiasm in his voice. "And please, I would like everyone traveling together on the same bus," advised the young entrepreneur. "No problem, my son, I'll take care of everything," Mr. Nana responded. "One more thing, Mr. Nana. Whatever money is left over must be split between you and my mother. Okay, sir? And I thank you for your assistance in this matter," expressed George, smiling. "Don't mention it, my son," responded the shopkeeper. "Would you like to say a word to your mother?" The shopkeeper then asked. "My mother is standing right there beside you now?" George exclaimed, asking. Immediately, Mr. Nana placed the phone to Martha's ear and advised her to speak into the phone. "George, how are you, my darling son?" the mother of 5 inquired with teary eyes. Trying hard to hold back tears, George replied, I'm doing all right, Mama. I'm doing all right. But the tears couldn't be contained, and now they were slowly dripping down the face of the young entrepreneur. George couldn't find the words to complete his conversation with his mother. Before, because his heart was completely melted hearing her voice for such a long time. But his mother had one good advice for him. My son, whatever you're doing, please be good to yourself, George's mother said before handing back the phone to the shopkeeper. It was an advice George took seriously, but he was he was unable to answer her because of the sniffling, stuffy sounds coming from his nostrils. The telephone, back into the shopkeeper's hands, didn't change George's brief moment of dysphagia, dumbness. However, Mr. Nana, being like a choir director, held the phone in the air for everyone there to show George some love. Everyone, please say hello to Brother George for me, he said with a big smile. Hello, Brother George, we love you, came the loud screaming sounds in the telephone like young adults jeering on their favorite rock star at a concert. Take care of yourself, George, Mr. Nana then said before both phone lines only contained silence. The cup of tea sitting on the narrow shaped kitchen island had now gotten cold, and with his nostrils still congested from his tears, he desperately needed that cup of tea to make him feel better. So he did what was needed to accomplish such. However, his girlfriend Venus was still on his mind and he needed to call her soon after digesting his cup of tea. And with the very last drizzling drop down his throat, Venus called him. Immediately, George Greenback tried to get himself control, tried to get some control over his emotions as he spoke into the phone. Hello, my darling. How are you doing? George said as the phone went to his ear. I'm doing great, Venus responded. When are you coming to see me, my darling? The mechanic in training then asked. But like she was playing deaf, she totally ignored his question and went on to ask, how are you and Dad and that business coming along? Things are going very well with your dad, with me, and also the business, even though we haven't really started handling any clients as yet, George informed her. Well, with no clients around, our house won't be furnished anytime soon, Venus said with sternness in her voice. George desperately wanted to tell her about his plans of moving men from his village into their house, but he was unsure of what her reaction would be. Therefore, he held his tongue on the matter for now. But what George was keeping a secret had already hit Venus's hair, but she wanted him to make mention of it to her about such a decision. but she wanted him to make mention to her about such a decision before she told him about her plans or her goodbye. Soon, George remembered that he needed to run into town and send off some money to Mr. Nana because the telegram company was only opening for half day, which usually happens on a Sunday. Venus, I have to run right now. I'll call you back as soon as I get back home, George said hastily, uncertain of the fact why George was postponing their telephone conversation. Venus began shouting, George, don't you have something important to tell me? But like a dog to a fruit salad, George ignored her question. But like a dog to a fruit salad, George ignored her question. So, this is the end of episode 14, guys. This is the end of episode 14. I hope you will like the story. Please subscribe, share, and hit the notification bell so whenever I post a video, you will be the first to have it. All right? Check out the story and identify the literary devices, right? The similes, the metaphors, right? The alliterations. Try and identify them. So whenever you're writing your own story, you know how to place them in your stories, right? My name is Constance once again. And before I go, please check the description box below for my merch or for any additional information. My books on Amazon.com. Please give your love and support to my work. All right. My name is Constance Williams. Once again, please like, subscribe, and share. And I hope you join me in my next class. Until then, bye-bye.